Hi everyone, welcome to the Form channel. In this video I would like to tell you how to fill out Form I-864 Affidavit of Support. This affidavit is required for most family-based immigrants and some employment-based intending immigrants to show that they have adequate means of financial support and are not likely to become a public charge. Please note that the information provided on this channel does not constitute or is intended to constitute legal advice. Instead, all informational content and materials available on this channel are for general informational purposes only. In the description of this video, I left a link to a web page with a fillable PDF form I-864, which you can fill out online there or download and fill out in electronic or paper form. So let's continue. To complete this application correctly, please study the instructions for completing it or watch this video to the end. First, type or print legibly in black ink. You can also fill it out online to create a document file in a non-editable format, which you can then print or send by email. I left a link to the fillable form in the description of this video. If you need extra space to complete any item within this affidavit, use the space provided in Part 11. Additional information or attach a separate sheet of paper, type or print your name and alien registration number if any at the top of each sheet, indicate the page number, pod number, and item number to which your answer refers, and sign and date each sheet. If you have never been married and the question asks provide the name of your current spouse, type or print in /A, unless otherwise directed. If your answer to a question which requires a numeric response is 0 or none, for example, how many children do you have or how many times have you departed the United States, type or print none, unless otherwise directed. Part 1. Basis for filling Affidavit of Support. Provide your full name, the sponsor, in the space provided, then select the item number that reflects your basis for filing Form I-864. A. Select this box if you are the petitioner who is filing or who has already filed Form I-129F, petition for alien fiancé for a fiancé, Form I-130, petition for alien relative for a family member, Form I-600, petition to classify orphan as an immediate relative for an orphan, or Form I-800, petition to classify convention adoptee as an immediate relative for a convention adoptee. B. Select this box if you are filing or have filed Form I-140, immigrant petition for alien worker for your husband, wife, father, mother, child, adult son or daughter, brother, or sister, and indicate your relationship to the beneficiary in the space provided. C. Select this box if you have an ownership interest of at least 5% in a business, corporation, or other entity that filed or is filing Form I-140 for your husband, wife, father, mother, child, adult son or daughter, brother, or sister. Indicate the name of the business you have an ownership interest in and your relationship to the beneficiary in the spaces provided. D. Select this box if you are the only joint sponsor. E. Select this box if you are either of two joint sponsors. A joint sponsor does not have to be related to the intending immigrant. Indicate whether you are the only joint sponsor or one of two joint sponsors. Check with the petitioning sponsor or the intending immigrant if you are not certain. F. Select this box if you are the substitute sponsor. A substitute sponsor is a sponsor who is completing Form I-864 on behalf of an intending immigrant whose original Form I-130 petitioner has died after the Form I-130 was approved, but before the intending immigrant obtained lawful permanent residence. The substitute sponsor must be related to the intending immigrant in one of the following ways: spouse, parent, mother-in-law, father-in-law, sibling, child at least 18 years of age, son, daughter, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, grandparent, grandchild, or legal guardian. The substitute sponsor must also be a United States citizen, lawful permanent resident, or a United States national. If you are a substitute sponsor, you must sponsor each intending immigrant. Part 2. Information about the principal immigrant. The principal immigrant is the intending immigrant who is the primary beneficiary of the visa petition. Provide the full name of the principal immigrant. Provide the mailing address of the principal immigrant. Provide the country of citizenship or nationality of the principal immigrant. Provide the date of birth of the principal immigrant in mm/dd/EI format. An alien registration number is a number assigned by the former Immigration and Naturalization Service or United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. People with the numbers can locate the number on their INS or USCIS issued documentation. If the intending immigrants you are sponsoring have not previously been in the United States or have only been in the United States as tourists, they may not have numbers. If you have previously filed an application, petition, or request using the USCIS online filing system, previously called USCIS Electronic Immigration System, provide the USCIS online account number you were issued by the system. You can find your USCIS online account number by logging into your account and going to the profile page. If you previously filed certain applications, petitions, or requests on a paper form via your USCIS Lockbox facility, you may have received USCIS Online Account Access Notice issuing you USCIS Online Account Number. If you receive such a notice, your USCIS Online Account Number can be found at the top of the notice. If you were issued USCIS Online Account Number, enter it in the space provided. The USCIS Online Account Number is not the same as a number. Provide a date and telephone number with area code for the principal immigrant. Part 3. Information about the immigrants you are sponsoring. Indicate whether you are sponsoring the principal immigrant listed in Part 2 of Form I-864. Select a no if you are sponsoring only intending immigrants listed in Part 3, item numbers 428, and if applicable in Part 11 additional information, and not the principal immigrant listed in Part 2. This only applies if you are sponsoring family members in Part 3 and Part 11 additional information, as a second joint sponsor. Family members immigrating within 6 months. The immigrant you are sponsoring, the principal immigrant, may bring a spouse and / or children to the United States. If the spouse and / or children will travel with the principal immigrant, or within 6 months of the principal immigrant's entry into the United States and you are sponsoring them, you should list the names and other requested information in the spaces provided in item number 2. If any dependents are not immigrating, will immigrate more than 6 months after the principal immigrant arrives in the United States, or you are not sponsoring them, then do not list their names here. A separate form I-864 is required for them when they apply for their immigrant visas. Family members immigrating more than 6 months after the principal immigrant. If you are filing this form I-864 for the principal immigrant's family members who are immigrating more than 6 months after the principal immigrant, you should list the names and other requested information in the spaces provided in item numbers 428. Type or print the total number of immigrants you are sponsoring on this affidavit from item numbers 1 to 28, including any immigrants listed for these questions in Part 11 additional information. Part 4. Information about you. Provide your full name and your current mailing address. Provide the physical address where you live, if different from your mailing address. Indicate the country where you maintain your principal residence and where you plan to reside for the foreseeable future. If your mailing address and / or place of residence is not in the United States, but your country of domicile is the United States, you must attach a typed or printed explanation and documentary evidence indicating how you meet the domicile requirement. Provide your date of birth in the mm/dd/ei format. Provide the city or town, state or province, and country of your birth. INA Section 213 AI requires you to include your United States Social Security number on Form I-864. If you do not have a Social Security number, you must obtain one before submitting Form I-864. If you do not provide your information, USCIS cannot accept your Form I-864, and the intending immigrants may not immigrate to the United States. USCIS may use your United States Social Security number to verify and, if necessary, to enforce your obligations under Form I-864. Citizenship or residency. You must provide proof that you are a United States citizen, United States national, or lawful permanent resident for joint and substitute sponsors and for relatives of employment-based immigrants who file Form I-864. Petitioning relatives who have already filed proof of their citizenship or immigration status with Form I-129F, Form I-130, Form I-600, or Form I-600 do not need to submit proof of their status with this affidavit. Sponsor's alien registration number, if any. An alien registration number is a number assigned by the former INS or USCIS. People with the numbers can locate the number on their INS or USCIS issued documentation. Sponsor's USCIS online account number, if any. If you have previously filed an application, petition, or request using the USCIS online filing system, provide the USCIS online account number you were issued by the system. You can find your USCIS online account number by looking into your account and going to the profile page. If you previously filed certain applications, petitions, or requests on a paper form via our Ask Us Lockbox facility, you may have received the Ask Us Online Account Access Notice issuing your Ask Us Online account number. If you received such a notice, your Ask Us Online account number can be found at the top of the notice. If you were issued Ask Us Online account number, enter it in the space provided. The Ask Us Online account number is not the same as a number. Military service. Select yes if you are the petitioning sponsor and on active duty in the United States Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, or Coast Guard other than for training. If you provide evidence that you are currently on active duty in the United States Armed Forces or United States Coast Guard and you are petitioning for your spouse and / or minor child, you will need to demonstrate income at only 100% of the poverty level for your household size instead of at 125% of the poverty level. See Form I-864P Poverty Guideline for information on the poverty levels. Select to note if you are not on active duty in the United States Armed Forces or United States Coast Guard. This provision does not apply to joint and substitute sponsors. Part 5. Sponsor's household size. Add together the number of persons for whom you are financially responsible. Some of these persons may not be residing with you. Make sure you do not count any individual more than once. In some cases, the same person could fit into two categories. For example, your spouse, whom you would enter in item number 3, might also be a lawful permanent resident for whom you have already sponsored using Form I-864 item number 6. If you included your spouse in item number 3, do not include him or her again in item number 6. Provide the number you entered in Part 3, item number 29. If you or someone else is completing Form I-864 on a computer, this box will auto-populate. This field is auto-populated to 1. Type or print 1 if you are married. Type or print 0 if you are not married. Type or print the number of unmarried children you have who are under 21 years of age, even if you do not have legal custody of these children. You may exclude any unmarried children under 21 years of age if these children have reached majority under the law of their place of domicile and you do not claim them as dependents on your federal income tax returns. Type or print the number of any other dependents. You must include each and every person whom you have claimed as a dependent on your most recent federal income tax return, even if the person is not related to you. Even if you are not legally obligated to support the person, you must include the person if, in fact, you did support that person and claim the person as a dependent. Type or print the number of lawful permanent residents whom you are currently obligated to support based on your previous submission of Form I-864 as a petitioning, substitute, or joint sponsor, or Form I-864 Affidavit of Support under Section 213 of the INA as a petitioning sponsor. Include only those persons who have already immigrated to the United States. Do not include anyone for whom your obligation to support is ended through the sponsored immigrant's acquisition of United States citizenship, death, abandonment of lawful permanent residence in the United States, acquisition of 40 quarters of earned or accredited work in the United States, or obtaining a new grant of adjustment of status while in removal proceedings based on a new affidavit of support if one is required. Item number 7. This question gives you the option of including certain other non-dependent relatives who are living in your residence as part of your household size. Such relatives may include your mother, father, sister, brother, or adult children if they are living in your residence. However, the only reason to include these relatives in your household size is if you need to include their income when you calculate your household income for purposes of meeting the income requirement for this affidavit. To be considered, any relative included in this category must sign and submit Form I-864A contract between sponsor and household member. Household size. Add together Part 5 item numbers from 1 to 7 and type or print the number in the space provided. If you or someone else is completing Form I-864 on a computer, this box will auto-populate. Part 6. Sponsor's employment and income. Sponsor's employment. Select all the boxes that apply to you. You, as the sponsor, may not rely on a household member's income from illegal acts, such as proceeds from illegal gambling or drug sales, to meet the income requirement even if the household member paid taxes on that income. Current individual annual income. Type or print your current, individual, earned or retirement annual income that you are using to meet the requirements of this affidavit and indicate the total in the space provided. You may include evidence supporting your claim about your expected income for the current year if you believe that submitting this evidence will help you establish ability to maintain sufficient income. You are not required to submit this evidence, however, unless specifically instructed to do so by a United States government official. For example, you may include a recent letter from your employer showing your employer's address and telephone number and indicating your annual salary. You may also provide pay stubs showing your income for the previous 6 months. If your claimed income includes alimony, child support, dividend or interest income, or income from any other source, you may also include evidence of that income. Current annual household income. This section is used to determine the sponsor's household income. If your individual annual income listed in item number 7 is greater than 125% or 100% if you are on active duty in the United States Armed Forces or United States Coast Guard and sponsoring your spouse or child of the Federal Poverty Guidelines for your household size from Part 5, item numbered 8, you do not need to include any other household member's income. See Form I-864P for information on the Federal Poverty Guidelines. If you have listed additional household members in Part 11, additional information, you must include their income and information when answering item numbers from 20 to 22 when applicable. Federal income tax return information. You must provide either an Internal Revenue Service transcript or a photocopy from your own records of your federal individual income tax return for the most recent tax year. If you believe additional returns may help you to establish your ability to maintain sufficient income, you may submit transcripts or photocopies of your federal individual income tax returns for the 3 most recent years. You are not required to have the IRS certify the transcript or photocopy unless specifically instructed to do so by government official. A plain transcript or photocopy is acceptable. Do not submit copies of your state income tax returns. Do not submit any tax returns that you filed with any foreign government unless you claim that you are not required to file a federal individual income tax return with the United States government and you wish to rely on the foreign return solely to establish the amount of your income that is not subject to tax in the United States. If you provide a photocopy of your federal individual income tax returns, you must include a copy of each and every Form W-2 and Form 1099 that relates to your returns. Do not include copies of these forms if you provide an IRS transcript of your federal individual income tax returns rather than a photocopy unless you filed a joint income tax return with your spouse and are qualifying using only your income. If you selected Part 6, item number 2 that you are self-employed, you should have completed one of the following forms with your federal income tax return: Schedule C profit or loss from business, Schedule D capital gain, Schedule E supplemental income or loss, or Schedule F profit or loss from farming. You must include each and every Form 1040 schedule, if any, that you filed with your federal income tax return. As stated previously, you must submit an IRS transcript or copy of your federal individual income tax return for the most recent tax year. If you choose to rely on income from the 3 most recent tax years, you must submit an IRS transcript or copy of your federal individual income tax return. If you were required to file a federal income tax return for the tax year but did not do so, you must file all late returns with the IRS and attach an IRS transcript or copy of your late return and submit it with Form I-864. If you were not required to file a federal income tax return under United States tax law because your income was too low, attach a typed or printed explanation. If you were not required to file a federal income tax return under United States tax law for any other reason, attach a typed or printed explanation including evidence of the exemption and how you are subject to it. Residence outside of the United States does not exempt United States citizens or lawful permanent residents from filing a United States federal income tax return. See filing requirements in the IRS Form 1040 filing instructions to determine whether you are required to file. For purposes of this affidavit, the line for total income on IRS Forms 1040 and 1040 will be considered when determining income. For persons filing IRS Form 1040-EZ, the line for adjusted gross income will be considered. Do not leave the boxes for item number 24 blank. Type or print the most recent tax year and your total income for that most recent tax year. If the amount was 0, type or print 0, or if you were not required to file a federal income tax return, type or print N/A for not applicable. Part 7. Use of assets to supplement income. Only complete Part 7 if you need to use the value of assets to meet the income requirements. If your current annual household income indicated in Part 6, item number 15 is equal to or more than needed to meet the income requirement as shown by the current Federal Poverty Guidelines Form I-864P for your household size indicated in Part 5, item number 8, you do not need to complete Part 7. If your total household income does not meet the requirement, you may submit evidence of the value of your assets, the sponsored immigrant's assets, and/or assets of a household member that can be used, if necessary, for the support of the intending immigrants. The value of assets of all of these persons may be combined in order to meet the necessary requirement. Only assets that can be converted into cash within 1 year and without considerable hardship or financial loss to the owner may be included. The owner of the asset must include a description of the asset, proof of ownership, and the basis for the owner's claim of its net cash value. You may include the net value of your home as an asset. The net value of the home is the appraised value of the home, minus the sum of any and all loans secured by a mortgage, trust deed, or the lien in the home. If you wish to include the net value of your home, then you must include documentation demonstrating that you own it, a recent appraisal by a licensed appraiser, and evidence of the amount of any and all loans secured by a mortgage, trust deed, or other lien in the home. You may not include the net value of an automobile unless you show that you have more than one automobile, and at least one automobile is not included as an asset. Assets. To use your own assets, you must complete Part 7, item numbers from 1 to 4, and submit corresponding evidence with this affidavit. Supporting evidence must be attached to establish location, ownership, date of acquisition, and value of any real estate holding. Household members' assets. To use the assets of a relative spouse, adult son or daughter, parent, or sibling, the relative must reside with you and have completed Form I-864 with accompanying evidence of assets. Form I-864 and accompanying evidence of assets is submitted with Form I-864. You may use the assets of more than one relative who resides with you so long as you submit a complete Form I-864 with evidence of assets for each such relative. Assets of the intending immigrant. You may use the assets of the intending immigrant regardless of where he or she resides. The intending immigrant must provide evidence of such assets with this affidavit. Add together item numbers from 6 to 8 and type or print the total number in item number 9. Form I-864 is not required to document the intending immigrant's assets. Total value of assets. In order to qualify based on the value of your assets, the total value of your assets must equal at least 5 times the difference between your total household income and the current federal poverty guidelines for your household size. However, if you are a United States citizen and you are sponsoring your spouse or child aged 18 years of age or older, the total value of your assets must only be equal to at least 3 times the difference. If the intending immigrant is a foreign national orphan who will be adopted in the United States after he or she acquires legal permanent residence, and who will, as a result, acquire citizenship under Section 320 of the INA, the total value of your assets need only equal the difference. Part 8. Sponsor's contract statement, contract information, declaration, certification, and signature. Read the contract carefully, then sign and date the affidavit. If you do not sign and date the affidavit, the intending immigrant you are sponsoring cannot be issued a visa or be granted adjustment of status. Select the appropriate box to indicate whether you read this affidavit yourself or whether you had an interpreter assist you. If someone assisted you in completing the affidavit, select the box indicating that you used a preparer. Further, you must sign and date your affidavit and provide your data and telephone number, mobile telephone number if any, and email address if any. Every affidavit must contain the signature of the sponsor or parent or legal guardian, if applicable. A stamped or typewritten name in place of a signature is not acceptable. Part 9. Interpreter's contact information, certification, and signature. If you used anyone as an interpreter to read the instructions and questions on this affidavit to you in a language in which you are fluent, the interpreter must fill out this section. Provide his or her name, the name and address of his or her business or organization if any, his or her data and telephone number, his or her mobile telephone number if any, and his or her email address if any. The interpreter must sign and date the affidavit. Part 10. Contract information, declaration, and signature of the person preparing this affidavit, if other than the sponsor. This section must contain the signature of the person who completed your affidavit, if other than you, the sponsor. If the same individual acted as your interpreter and your preparer, that person should complete both Part 9 and Part 10. If the person who completed this affidavit is associated with a business or organization, that person should complete the business or organization name and address information. Anyone who helped you complete this affidavit must sign and date the affidavit. A stamped or typewritten name in place of a signature is not acceptable. If the person who helped you prepare your affidavit is an attorney or accredited representative, and his or her representation extends beyond preparation of this affidavit, he or she may be obliged to also submit a completed Form G-28, Notice of Entry of Appearance as Attorney or Accredited Representative, or G-28I, Notice of Entry of Appearance as Attorney in matters outside the geographical confines of the United States, along with your affidavit. Part 11. Additional information. If you need extra space to provide any additional information within this affidavit, use the space provided in Part 11 Additional Information. If you need more space than what is provided in Part 11, you may make copies of Part 11 to complete and file with your affidavit, or attach a separate sheet of paper. Type or print your name and a number, if any, at the top of each sheet. Indicate the page number, part number, and item number to which your answer refers, and sign and date each sheet. Please also review the list of required documents that must be submitted along with your completed Form I-864. This information can be found in Instruction I-864, which I provided a link to in the description of this video. In it you will also find information about the filing fee and how your application will be processed. Thank you for watching.